Alright, so before we begin a little bit more learning of ZBrush and what we can do with it, let me do what all typical first students do. They do this. For some odd reason they unclick edit, okay, and then they freak out because they can make a whole bunch of their parts, but none of them really is sculptable. This is a common thing that students do. So let me just make a few of these. Yes, this is 2D space but with 3D, so we call it 4D sometimes, or Z depth. Well, if I ever click edit again, I can edit the one that I laid down last, which is way off in the background now. Okay, what about all this other junk? I can just go to layer, clear. Double click scale and it brings it back into focus. Another thing students do all the time is they accidentally save their document, because that's what our preferred state of mind is. Okay, we have a document, that's what this is, and we save it. That could be further from the truth, so don't do that. This will only save the 2D representation of it, so it will never be sculptable. In here we go save as. So tool is what we're under. Always save your stuff as a tool, unless you are making a 2D, then you can use that. Okay, again here, and I'll just save this as test 2. What if it's the next day? We'll mimic that. So initialize ZBrush and hit yes. That will reset ZBrush back to standard, where no hotkeys exist, no nothing. And if I want to load that tool, I can just load it, click and drag it, and hit edit. That's another thing students do all the time. They might load that and it was not ever sculptable because they saved it as a document, not a tool. Alright, third thing students do all the time is this. They start exploring the different shapes. They're like, oh yeah, these are cool. What's this one? Well, let's switch to that one. And let's play around with the Z depth for a second. And then they want to go back to their original tool. Can they do that? Well, sure, it's very easy. First off, let's clear your layer and then go back to your tool, click and drag it out and hit edit again. So it's pretty easy, but I'll tell you what, that concept, you get a group of like 10 or 15 ZBrush students in a classroom, it's so funny, absolutely hilarious when they're switching tools and they're praying to God that they didn't actually lose their tool or something like that. Alright, now that we got that out of our system, let's go into geometry. I'm going to show you how to make a very succinct mask. A lot of the things that I do are based upon masks, so that's why I'm teaching you all these masking tricks. So if I made like a rectangular mask and I wanted to go like this, and I wanted it to follow its form perfectly based upon its polyframe. So you can see the polyframe is going this way, but this mask is going this way. Okay, again, I want to make a selection based upon its polyframe. To do that, it's very awkward. So here's a different method you could do. So clear the mask. We could always go to our old faithful pen tool, and then we could spend a few hours trying to think of a way to hold control and be steady enough to get the selection perfect. Okay, so that's another way to do it. And if it's not perfect, we can always blur the mask and then resharpen the mask, and we can get it somewhat close, but never dead on. Alright, so here's how you get dead on. This is a different tool. So let's lower this mesh all the way down. Let's go into the selection tools, which is right here. I kind of like using the lasso tool half the time. Control Shift. Remember that. Okay, this is a bit of a number cruncher. The fact that you have to hold Control Shift and start making this green blob. Anything in the green blob will stay. Okay? If you hold Control Shift anywhere else, it makes it reappear. So we can hide faces this way. Hide faces this way. So if I hide this by holding Alt while it's green, it turns red. Okay, that's what I mean. Now I have a 3-finger shortcut along with a hand coordination on the Wacom drawing tablet. Okay, let's do that one more time. Again, that is Shift, Control, and then hold Alt to make it disappear. What if I miss some or want to get some back? Well, you're pretty well screwed. You got to do it again. That's the only bad thing. Let's do that one more time. So this is the fun part of ZBrush, in the fact that we have to hide faces sometimes. We used to have to do this all the time. You don't even know. You don't even know. If you're into ZBrush 4 now and you never experienced 3 or 2.5 or any of those other versions, you'd be amazed on how many times we had to do this just to get a clean mask. Alright, so this is what I have. What if I want this masked? Let's go all the way up in levels and hold Control and click. That will mask this part off. And then if we hold Control and Shift, it'll make everything reappear. And this way we can make a selection based upon the polyframe. Isn't that cool? Okay, so that's using 2 of the edge loops in that area. If I wanted to narrow that down, I would have to go one higher. Let's say I wanted to do just this edge loop in here, but not both. Let me demonstrate that too. This is very important. Clear? So in this case, instead of level 1, I would go to level 2 and then fish out my geometry here. And it's best to go just a little bit shy of what you want. So there we go. And it's all the angle at which you do it. Okay. Then I'll go higher. And then I'll hold Control, and then I'll show all my parts. So based upon whatever edge loop you want in there, see, I even should have went one higher than that, but yeah, you get the drift. Alright, now, you know, I could do the same things. I can inverse it, and I can go in here and take the deformation of it. I use deflate a lot. Sometimes I do inflate it, but not very often. We'll inflate it this time. Now, you'll see that what happened here is it escaped out of its food group again. Okay, so that happens quite a lot actually. What we could do to fix that is back it down, go down a couple levels, and guess what you have to do? That's right, you have to remask it. This time you would have to make sure in that area that you have the correct polygons hid and not hid in order for it not to escape. So, good stuff. This takes a lot of practice. There's no doubt about it. But again, something that you're going to be doing all the time. If you do enough, you can see I'm getting a little bit faster at it myself. I'm still used to ZBrush 2.5 in the fact that we only had to do it with one key. Okay. Now we can also hit mask all. Mask all that's visible. That's another way to do it. The intensity, if we set that up, this used to be alpha intensity, but now it's not. Let's go intensity value of 100. That will make sure it's 100% value of the mask. So it's now down here. Hold Control Shift. That looks a lot better. And just sharpen the mask this time. Okay, if you see anything wrong with the mask, you'll have to redo it. This one looks perfect to me, so we can go inflate, and I know that 20 would be fine. Perfect. You can see now it has no crawling out. So sharpening the mask really does help. Let's say I want to inverse this and create a texture on the surface everywhere except for the bolts. How do we do that? Well, if you hold Alt, you can go like this and mask off those bolts. Just like that. And let's say I want this to be non-destructible. In other words, I could get rid of it at any one time. Well, I can put the actual stuff on a layer. So let's go to Layers and hit New Layer. In this layer, I'm going to put a surface noise over everything. Okay, so that same level of noise everywhere. And let's make the scale a little bit larger. And let's apply it to the mesh. And let's clear all this good stuff as far as masking is concerned. Now you can see it's masked everywhere except for where the bolts were. Okay, and depending upon how much time you took to mask them, that's the quality. You could have used the blur feature to make it a little bit better, because right now I have this very succinct outside. Well, in normal cases you'd be like, well, now I have this and I have to live with it. But in ZBrush we've got layers, which right here, and we have the layer intensity, so we can lower this down if we wanted to and just get a surface noise. It's a little bit better. Okay, so we can turn it up, on, off, whatever. We can even go past what we did before. Now this is the overall features. In other words, if I had several layers built up here, this is the master control for all layers. If we want individual layers though, it's this. How do you make a new layer? Very easy. Let's say I go in here and put new layer down. If I'm on this one and it has hit record, which has record feature right there, Now I'm on this one, and I can make maybe a little pattern. I use this a lot. Slash brush is pretty sweet. The fact that you can go in here and make some interesting stuff. Okay. Any one time I can take this and lower it down. But if I want to over increase the entire thing, I go down here. So that's changing both. Alright, let's go into the next video.